Allow us to introduce ourselves. My name is Miss Rios.
My name is Miss Navarro.
And my name is Miss Gonzalez.
Let's assess your understanding. Before we begin this lesson, we want to assess your understandings of the topics we're going to cover.
So first, think about conflict. Conflict comes from a serious disagreement and sometimes can end in serious fights.
Remember the Mexican-American War? It happened due to conflict between Americans and Mexican people regarding Texas independence. Texas was also wanting to become part of the United States to gain statehood, and America wanted to expand westward. This conflict ended in war.
Today we're going to talk about another conflict.
So make sure you're paying attention.
So we know a couple of people who have experienced some strong conflict. They were once friends. One of them just wasn't being very nice anymore. Their names are Colin and George. Colin wanted to have a talk with George to tell him how he was being mean. Even though Colin knew George would not care, George makes plans for them without fully Colin in on the details, giving Colin no choice but to participate.
Everyone saw how controlling George was over Colin. He didn't let Colin have any other friends. He never let Colin do his own thing. George was always right there. For example, Colin always had to ask for permission to do simple things such as buying the things that he needed.
George always made Colin pay for things too. Like that time they both went to snack bar together. George told the worker all the things he wanted. And at the end, he made Colin pay. Colin didn't even want anything. However, George didn't care. He always looked after himself before anyone and anything.
George went to Colin's house and brought his friends several times. However, George never asked permission from Colin to go over, let alone to bring his friend. At the end of the night, they never got picked up and had to stay the night, all without Colin's permission.
Everyone felt like Colin should tell George how he felt, but Colin wanted time to figure out what he really wanted. Colin ultimately wanted to be free from George, but he thought it was impossible.
Finally, Colin had to stand his ground, but George didn't like that. He retaliated and did many things to intentionally hurt Colin.
Do you want to know more about Colin and George?
In our story, Colin and George actually represent two countries. Colin represented the American colonists, while George represented the British monarchy. How is George like the British monarchy?
Take a moment to reflect on how George represents the British monarchy. How is Colin like the American colonists?
Take another moment to reflect. How do you think Colin is like the American colonists? Lastly, reflect on how you would feel if you were in Colin's shoes.